obey your evil laws. Do to us what you will. Threaten our children and we will still love you. Come into our homes at the midnight hour of the night and take us out on some desolate highway and beat us and leave us there.
Red, white, and blues. This murder on Orange Avenue. Red, white, and blue. It's murder on Orange Avenue. Oh, mothers and fathers, sisters, brothers, loved ones. Oh, now their lives are through. Hatred got a rifle. Aimed at the heart of this land. Hatred got a rifle. Aimed at the heart of this land. Hatred in our hearts. Blood stains on our hands.
Is that?
Obviously, the anger, the hostility, the bitterness,
Look into the darkness, it looks back. Best high in the hood since cook cracks, and that's what I'm good at.
All right, we want to thank y'all. My name is MarKaus, and welcome back to another episode of Sunday Supper. I think this is episode 6. I want to thank y'all for tapping in again. Today's episode is sponsored by myself. We're going to keep it going. Introduce my panelists with me today. We've got Ashton English, one of the leaders of Norwalk Black Lives Matter. Justin Lewis, Des Moines Selma, Passion Morgan, activist extraordinaire. We're going to get directly into it. Our topics today, we're going to kind of continue on the conversations that we had last week and start to discuss some of the roles that corporations play. But before we do that, we, of course, want to address some of the more recent topics that have addressed our people. Recently in Portland, we've seen the reports from almost every major news outlet. The response, the harsh physical response by our government. I don't even know where to begin with a question with that. I guess I just want to. We'll start left to right on this. We all probably got crazy feelings. Ashton, well, I guess, what are your thoughts and feelings on this?
I mean, it's wild because wasn't it the governor and the mayor that told like the federal people that were coming in to get out, and they said no?
Yeah, it's not. It's more than the fact that the harsh treatment. That's not. That's not the big part about this. Break it down. We've all been treated harshly by law enforcement in this movement. Mm-hmm. This is the fact that this was federal. These are federal agents. Homeland Security is now what they're saying. Before they weren't saying who they were. They were no insignia, mask, renting cars, renting vehicles from local rental agencies. So just snatching protesters up. They shot one guy in the face. He had to have reconstructive surgery. But they didn't even know. They were already in Portland when the governor was notified. Okay. And the mayor has asked them to leave. And the governor has told them, I watched an interview with her and they said, Governor, what is going on in your state? And her response was, that is a good question. That should never have to be your response when you are the governor of a state. So basically, federal government has come into a state and put troops on their streets and been asked by the local and the state government to leave, where now they're actually having to sue the federal government to get them out. Wow. They have a lawsuit pending right now.
It's like a war.
It's no, it's not like.
It is. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
What's the solution for something like this? I mean, this is I think the scariest thing about seeing something like what's happening in Portland is one of those cities that I've heard it before. It's like one of those cities similar to Des Moines, like the makeup of it, the vibe of it, the size, even with, you know what I mean? I think that was the scariest thing for me watching this, feeling like, yo, there were moments in protests that we had here where I felt like it could take that. Right. You know, how does this connect, I guess, and you go ahead, Justin.
I think what's important is if the government asks for help or any solutions, our federal government shouldn't be overstepping states' rights to come in and police their state or their city or their communities. Local law enforcement, local city governments, and the state should be responsible for what's taking place. So again, people love to talk about states' rights. Allow the state to do what they need to do. And if the federal government is requested to come in to have some assistance to help prevent anything going on, then that's when they should act. But right now, they need to back off.
And the governor did not ask.
And
let it be clear that it was not requested.
So this was
federal.
It was a political move.
Federal troops went into a state without permission of the governor or the local government and took it over.
Yeah.
Wow. That's what happened. In plain speak, that is what happened.
Well, if you look at it politically, it was a specific political move by, the federal government's administration, because they've countlessly talked about how, there's just this autonomous zone and it's lawless and we're going to make an example out of it. So it's just right into the playbook of what they've already been talking about. They're literally just using it as a campaign push. He's going to say, we went in there and took over and look what we did and how successful we were. So I look past it. I know what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
And drum up more support with, I'm a law enforcement and law abiding president, and we're going to follow the law, and we're going to wrap up them hardheads and thugs and throw them in jail. And
that's exactly what he's trying to do.
It's an agenda.
And I understand what he's trying to do. And to tell you the truth, that's exactly what he's trying to do. Yeah. I don't care what he's trying to do. I care what he did.
Okay.
And what he did was put federal troops in a state against the express wishes of her governor.
Who represents
that
the people.
is a major move of aggression against a state which is a independently running body in our United States of America. It is the compromise we made during the makeup of our country, of the power between federal government and states' rights, remember?
But if he can do that there, he can do it here.
That is why the focus has to be on
that. I think that's kind of what I was hinting at, was where it's like, if that can happen in a place like Portland, Oregon, it can happen anywhere. It can happen anywhere. It can happen anywhere. I'm not going to go on long about that, because the focus of this show is try to be front lines on what we got going on here, but we do want to show solidarity for those protesters and people affected by that. Kind of continuing on the conversations we had last week, we've seen from small businesses with Black Lives Matter things on their doors to big corporations, Black Lives Matter cookies. I don't know if there's Black Lives Matter cookies. There probably are. There probably are.
With fist on them.
With fist on them. Probably are. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I've seen them on Facebook.
I guess what role, and this is we're going to kind of build on this as the conversation goes. What role should a corporation or small business, what should they be looking to do right now? I think there's that, obviously with black businesses, we know what that is, but I want to focus specifically on the businesses that we don't control. The Wells Fargos, the Nationwides. What should they?
Well, first I would say look within their organizations themselves. Do not come out into the public arena and say what should be done, because that's not your arena. So look within yourselves. Examine your boards. Is it representing our population and the diversity that we speak about? Is these boards all white men? Are they all white women? Is there any black faces, brown faces on there? So that's a start. And then from there, I would look up the structure of the organization and their organization tree. Who's in there? Is there any diversity? Is there any women? Is there women of color leading? Then go from there. If they don't have the answers to that, then they need to start hiring out, start doing some job training, reaching out to the urban community to actually direct people into that organization. So that's a start. From there, they need to come along with organizations that have been doing the work for years now, give their money, their resources. A lot of organizations give free volunteer time. So, send your bodies and have them volunteer in our community, help build houses, help them, read to students, help direct resources to get people into college so then they can build generational wealth. Okay. So that's just to start.
Yeah.
Then I'll pass it on.
I think that Justin's right.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, that's it.
I guess you
wrap that up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So more I totally agree with you, absolutely. Yes. But speaking on a monetary stance, so who I'm employed through, basically during COVID and during what happened to George Floyd and how it affected so many parts of the United States. Yeah. Basically, they said you need to find 2 nonprofits and you need to come back to us, report to us what they need so that we can turn around and give them something to help them in this time and help, progress and things like that. So we know these corporations like Target and Walmart and Hy-Vee, they'll say, Black Lives Matter, we support you guys. Okay, I don't need you to just say that. Right. We need you filtering out into your community. And I understand that there's formality within corporations. You got to do things kind of by the book. Yeah. But if your store is in a community and you are firmly within the community, you need to turn around and give back to your community, especially where you're hurting. So you need to not only say it, you need to be about it. And we got to do both, right?
Right. And actually, I do actually have something to say after Ashton just said that. And because something hit me when she said corporations have a formality to them, we have to do things by the book.
Yeah.
And I am a firm believer, we had this short conversation before the show started. The idea is to change the book.
Right.
If you're going to do things by the book, that's fine. Change the book.
Make the book legit. That's what it is. Yeah.
That's good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, and I think it's important too. We remember what Nike did when Kaepernick took the knee, and they were one of the first organizations to come alongside him saying this initiative is right, what he stands for is true.
Yeah.
And now, that was 3-4 years ago. Now everybody wants to jump on the bandwagon, and rightfully so. Welcome to the party, but now it's time to get to work. Like, get caught up to speed. Say what you did in the past was wrong and why, and then go forward.
I guess. So to hone it in a little bit more, specifically with Des Moines, because Des Moines is considered, a white collar corporate town, right?
Yes.
What specifically? Because Iowa, because I keep saying Des Moines, Iowa as a whole is number 2 in basically every bad statistic we want to be in as African Americans. You know what I mean?
Which is funny.
I think which is funny,
in the
but
top 5 when it comes to overall happiness and wealth.
Exactly. That's what I was getting at. Because when we look at, just with white people here, it's a total opposite, right?
Absolutely.
It's completely different.
I guess what ways can locally, specifically, can be done from these obviously I'm not going to hold y'all to this like you're running for anything, but what would you all like to see locally?
I think the first thing is that we as a people need to be protected from government oppression. So I look at it as an umbrella. If we draw the umbrella out, we need to be protected from our government. Then from there, we need to be able to have the right opportunities to have education, housing, banking, schooling.
Yeah. Okay.
But all that will fall apart if one police officer pulls me over, says I have weed, doesn't de-escalate the stop. Either I'm murdered or taken to jail, and then that stops wealth going into my family. That stops me being able to be a parent. That leads into my partner having to work double time to fund the house.
If they
can, then my kids are home alone. They don't realize that one wrong will destroy a family. And not only that, it will destroy wealth generation for the next family. You want us to pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps, but you continue to take black fathers out of the household.
Yeah.
How is that even possible?
Yeah.
So when I tell people about corporations, give us jobs, give us money, but help us change the way our government is operating.
Yeah, let me tack on something to that too, because because I don't often I think one of the things with that especially is the pay of women. I think it's often forgotten, especially women are paid less than men on average, right? But then
7 cents to the dollar.
Right. So then when you look
White
at black, exactly. That's exactly what I was getting at.
White women.
So when we get into what black women are paid on top of that, I think if there was, and it's one of those things. My personal thing is if we could get local corporations, even if just on the statewide level, to agree to pay women the same rate as men, we would see such an astronomical boost in our black economy here.
Absolutely.
That overnight. That's my little. Go ahead, Pash. I see you got something. Go ahead, man. Let it out.
About your wages at
Let
work.
it out. That's exactly why they don't let us talk
exactly
about
why.
our wages at work.
What are you
That's
thinking?
exactly why. Yeah. That's just my little.
I think that, going back to what Justin said about the umbrella of protection of us from the government, I have to reiterate again that Thomas Jefferson very famously said that we are endowed by our Creator by such inalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and to institute these rights, to protect these rights, governments are instituted by men and to ensure these rights. And if they fail to ensure these rights, then it is the right and obligation of the people to alter or abolish that said government. So being that the very first thing that I did,
Okay.
I did in
Just make
fact,
sure.
alter or abolish Very clear wording. But the reason I said that is because the very first thing Justin said, which he was absolutely right, is we need an umbrella of protection from our government. That statement alone tells us where we are. That combined with Portland tells us where we are. I love my family and I love their safety. So I'm going to let you draw your own conclusion as where we are. But I will say that in writing these words, Thomas Jefferson was doing it in the Declaration of Independence from Great Britain. So, yes, that is definitely a point that is a ridiculous thing to have to state, is that we need protection from our government. The fact that yes, in Iowa, the statistics for black people are literally some of the worst in the country, but for white people, some of the very best. In the top 5 for white people.
And there's a correlation with that I don't think people really probably grasp on the economic level.
Iowa nice.
Right.
You know? And this isn't supposed to be a knock or anything.
No, it's just fact.
It's just what it is. It's just simply what it is.
Because a lack of talking about these facts, and we talked about this on another show that I was on, and the ability to placate or not make white people feel uncomfortable is what has kept us in this position and allowed this to get to the point that it is now. Yeah. Because we're constantly trying to say things politely and diplomatically. No, I'm not trying to do that anymore. I'm trying to say them so you understand them. So you hear what I'm saying. And it may be blunt. That doesn't change my love for you. I still love you. But it has to be said so that it's plain and clear. And there's no more beating around the bush.
Yeah. You have to make a decision at that point. You can't be silent anymore when you're like in the crossroads. Oh my gosh, this is actually taking place. You have to decide. Either you're going to be willfully continue to be ignorant, or you're going to come alongside us and help.
Yeah, and kind of piggybacking off of that, like, you know, you say we got to make them uncomfortable. We're uncomfortable every day. Yeah. You know, so now it's to the point now we're like, no BS. Like, it's time to move forward. We're going to say some things that it's probably going to hurt your ego a little bit. Yeah. So we did a protest in Norwalk, and, you know, we said that. We're like, this is going to hurt your ego a little bit. This is going to sting, but it's not meant to hurt your character. It's meant to educate you, and it's meant to get you to understand what we're going through. Yeah. So these uncomfortable conversations, it's not to hurt anyone, but you have to understand we're uncomfortable every day. You know, I'm trying to get you to have these uncomfortable conversations to know where I'm coming from, basically. Yeah.
And to piggy on, because for those that don't remember at the top of the segment, she's actually one of the leaders at the Norwalk Black Lives Matter, which I can imagine this is one of those type of things that you're constantly, is because that's not typically where you would, I guess, expect a Black Lives Matter movement to pop off at, right? And we're going to have a whole segment dedicated to kind of the things that you all got going, but just briefly speak on some of the things that you've gone through or experienced or whatever with.
So, like, why Norwalk Black Lives Matter even formed was because I have been in that community maybe 3 years, in Iowa a total of 6 years, but Norwalk exclusively 3 years. And I moved there because it's close to my work, and all the parents say it's a great school. So I have a 3-year-old. Why would I not move somewhere where everyone says it's a great, phenomenal school? Go there. I'm asking the parents constantly, how do you like the school system? They say it's phenomenal. I ask the kids, I get a completely different response, especially from the kids of color. Yeah. And then I'm like, I gotta move. Shit, I gotta go. I can't do this, you know? Yeah. George Floyd happens, and then the kids are coming out of the woodworks telling us their stories. And it's heartbreaking because I say, so what happened after you reported this? Or told an adult what happened to you? And it's crickets. Nothing happens. So then that's why we kind of formed Norwalk BLM. We did a protest. We're trying to do some community initiatives, things like that. But if you look at a large scale, it's like 97% Caucasian, and then it's like they have a small category for Hispanics, and then it's 0.02 is other. So like the black community, we're not even called the black community on paper. It's just other because there's very little minorities there. You know, there's more Hispanics than there are, or Latinx, than there is the black community. And the small portion of the black community that's there, they're not represented well, you know, and it's majority kids coming up. So in my mind, okay, if you're dealing with all of these injustices and these racial slurs at school, if you stick around this community after you're done with school, it doesn't go away. You're gonna deal with it in the community. So I
guess I'll to add to that kind of moves us on to our next question. Kind of to switch gears a little bit. I don't know if for a lot of those we all of course know. Recently with the COVID and the decisions to have kids back in school, it's kind of because one of the things that we've seen with this is with the disproportionate things that affect us in the first place. This COVID has kind of offset us further. What do you all feel like the effects of Kim Reynolds allowing kids back into school are going to be long term, or just what is your response to it? Not even the rope in your answer, but what's y'all's thoughts on that?
I think it's important to allow the school districts to do what they feel is best for their population of students. What we saw was she had a press conference with Van Meter and Des Moines Christian, which are some very small local schools that anywhere from 800 to 1,000 kids district-wide. Now we're looking at Des Moines Public Schools where there's 33,000 kids. That is a breeding ground for the virus, essentially. Everyone's going to be affected. The city of Des Moines is going to be affected. So I would say leave it up to the schools. Don't force schools to go back if they already have plans to be able to do online learning. But yeah, she signed an executive order and she's forcing schools to be at least 50% in person. And that's scary. I have friends that are teachers and they're not wanting to go back. They want to do their job, but they don't want to put their family at risk, and they love their students and they don't want to put them at risk. And if COVID is real, which I believe it is, why run the risk?
Why run the risk? Okay, so absolutely. Now, here's the thing with that. The teachers are let's start with parents. Any parent who has ever had a child in school understands that the first couple of weeks of school, your kid comes down with something. Right. My daughter is never sick. She spent her entire life, the very first time she was ever sick was the very first week that she was in school in her whole life. And it had happened to my other children. It happens because kids bring stuff with them, and being exposed to that after that summer of being just with your family and these new germs makes kids sick. If you know that on a regular, everyday, just stomach flu, croup, lice, schools can't control lice. How in the hell are they going to control COVID-19? So that is why it's the teachers and the parents that are in an uproar, because we're the ones that understand how this happens. And so the teachers are not in support of this at all. That being said, I was looking this up. Des Moines Registered posted this, printed this. For individuals, if teachers decide to strike. This is in Des Moines, people. Fine of up to $500 for each day of the strike. Possible imprisonment in county jail for up to 6 months. Again, remember COVID-19 is going. So when you're doing threats of prison and jail time, you're literally messing with people's lives at this point, and you know it. You're aware of it. So immediate discharge from work and ineligible for reemployment by the same employer for 1 year, which means by any school district in Iowa. So for organizations, this means teachers' unions. Fines up to $10,000 for each day of the strike, possible imprisonment in county jail for up to 6 months, and decertification for 2 years.
Wow.
These are the threats against our teachers for not wanting to put the health of themselves, their students, and their families at risk when there is actually a deadly pandemic. I know it seems like everybody's forgotten, but there is a deadly pandemic going on.
Just a little bit, because one of the major, I guess, pushbacks I've heard to not allowing kids back in school. This is me. I want y'all to know. All right now, but this is just a devil's advocate. Because black students are so already behind, and with just that's a whole. We could get into a whole education segment. Like 4 or 5 episodes if we wanted to. But is there anything to say with keeping black children out of school without any infrastructure to catch them, to help bridge that? So if they're saying that if we're, you know what I mean? I think you all understand what I'm saying. Like what thing, I guess the better way to phrase that is what ways can parents within our community, what ways can they circumnavigate these things?
Okay. Those are kind of two different questions, and I'm going to make this quick.
And that's why I kind of, yeah.
So the first one is the repercussions of letting these students that are already behind because of socioeconomic factors fall through the cracks of the system. Is there something to be said about that with opening schools back up? No. Like that's a plain, quick answer. Okay. Honestly, not when it compares to the chance of death. Like there is a chance of death with this virus.
Are we all? If
there was not a chance of death, we would talk about something else. Okay. But there's literally a chance of death. And I know people are like, oh, but it's small. But it's only small when we're separated. Yeah. Once we get together, those chances are going to improve dramatically. Yeah. And so there's a chance of death. So no, anything else falling through the cracks, you can be illiterate at 20 if you're 20.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If you make it, yeah.
If
you're
Good
20.
Okay.
As far as I'm concerned, nothing. This scale is like this as far as it's concerned because death is the final thing for COVID.
Yeah.
So that's that. Now, what can parents do? I'm gonna pass that off. There's a lot. I'll come back around, but I already took enough time with that, so I'm gonna pass it off.
What do you think?
I mean, didn't Betsy DeVos say like, if kids go back to school, only like 2% will contract it? Only. That's like what, over 14,000 kids. So
it's not only if it's your kid. And it's
exactly. If it's not your kid. Yeah. Because, but who's to say that?
Then who's to blame for that decision? Because then they'll have a fantasy of like, oh, we thought we were making the best decision.
No, parents have to sign a waiver.
Yeah.
A death waiver, by the way. A death waiver to go back to school in Missouri.
It's crazy.
And in Washington, there was actually a town in the state of Washington that said something about letting children of color go back to school first and then keeping children that are white back for a little while. Now, they made it seem like it was because of the numbers.
But that's a Tuskegee experiment again.
But we've been here before. We know how this goes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Fool me once, shame on you.
No, okay. So that I guess I'll move on from that. I just wanted to get y'all's thoughts on that, just kind of, because it's one of the things that our viewership has been is agitated about. School's coming back.
Because it's dangerous and it's stupid.
It seems reckless.
I can't remember. Did she require them to have masks?
Oh yeah. You ever seen kids with a mask?
They don't keep them on.
Have you ever seen a kid with anything?
Well, and I think that's the thing. Like
hearing aids, glasses.
Right.
My
how
son,
do you keep 7 and 8 year olds at a 6 foot distance and keep with all? It's not gonna happen.
It's never gonna happen. My son cannot see out of his left eye without his glasses on. He cannot. The boy.
Is he constantly?
And I had to buy him. Well, he's 24 now, but I had
get the goggles on him.
I had to buy him 5 pair in his first 6 months of wearing them. Because kids don't keep anything, let alone little disposable masks that they are going to make into airplanes and slingshots, and they are going to be Darth Vader.
By the time I got by the time I'm done playing Mortal Kombat, this mask is not going to.
By the time I finish rubbing whatever COVID-19 is all on it, all over my face, because now I have been the Sith Lord. You
took it off at lunch. We all shared it. You put on the mask.
I wanted to see what
yours
looked like.
I want to
dogs.
I want to try to move on from that just to real quick. No, you're good.
Yeah,
you're perfectly right though. I think that's the main thing. Like, I think just to switch gears once again, because we've seen from I think a lot of the Black Lives Matter groups and a lot of just everyone in general in the state is us wanting the governor to sign the felons' rights voting thing. I think one of the double things that's with this is probably the handling of the bill itself, which is not something I think has really been addressed. You know what I mean? It probably wasn't handled properly on the side of the people in the first place. But I guess this is another. I guess all my questions today are just like I'm just plopping a bunch of Legos in the middle of the table.
What's up? Let's do it.
Like what next? I mean, here's the thing with this. I think that there's multiple angles that we could address with this. We could address our existing leadership, like you all fumbled. Like if you're out there, Brett Favre and throwing 5 interceptions a game, how are we going to win? You know what I mean? But at the same time, if you could sign an order right this moment that could solidify, I think there's the turn of these things.
I don't know. I know that since they have asked for her to sign this executive order, she has signed an executive order on a 24-hour waiting ban or waiting period for abortions. She has signed an executive order to allow schools to go back as opposed to all beliefs of teachers, parents, and science. And she has hit a protester with a car. So in that time, she had time to sign this executive order. She's not signing it because she doesn't want to. There's nothing that stopped.
Bill or whatever been around for like 2 years now. Like we've been.
From what I understand, this.
I'm sorry. She did all that in the last 3 weeks.
Just for people to have context, this bill has been something that's been in the works for years. They've been drafting it up, and there's a bunch that goes into what happened at the. But there were some issues with the way that it was written, the way it was proposed, and just some timing issues, I think, deadline issues. I guess, what were you going to say, Justin? I'm sorry.
So we're the only state that doesn't have some type of restorative rights to our felons. Forget what she's doing, but I believe in, community. I believe in if someone does a wrong, we should be able, as a community, to restore them and their rights. And one of the first things that can be done is restoring their right to vote.
Right.
And that's not just it. How can we get back on track so we can, one, keep them out of poverty, one, find a job, and then start creating generational wealth? Because that's the big thing.
Yeah.
So I think she needs to sign it. No, she does need to sign it. That would be just one good gesture for people that have, fallen short, and some that have been wrongfully convicted of felonies, because not everybody's a felon that's on that list.
Which happens 72% of the time to people of color, according to the Innocent Project.
So sign it.
Yeah.
And let's restore their rights, and let's get people back on the right track. We can't continue to punish people for a crime they've already committed.
If it's a right, how do you take it?
Yeah. Let me ask y'all this. Do you think that if she signed the executive order, that would be far-reaching enough, or do you think?
No, we need legislation right after that.
And I think that's what
it can change at the stroke of a pen.
I think that's what my main thing with this is should we actually even get her? Should we even push for the executive order to be signed, or should we actually just say, hey, be willing to push through new legislation immediately? That's more far-reaching. That's more.
Well, see, the political move, so if she does it, she signs this executive order, Republicans will fall in line behind her to push legislation through.
Okay.
But she has to carry that banner. If she doesn't,
then
Republicans
there's no reason
won't.
for the rest. Okay.
My question and my problem with this always is, if it's a right, how in the hell do you take it?
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm not a big conspiracy person by any means, but this is an agenda, and it falls in line with her agenda. If she's had 2 years or whatever, and the wording's messed up, okay, you can fix the wording within 2 years.
No, that all falls in her agenda.
It's a total
absolutely.
agenda. I mean,
How many
but
people are
I don't.
on that call, like that list?
And you know what? And
that could swing a lot of votes too.
You know, that's the interesting thing. I think that one of the things that we try to even address with this show is connecting the us's to the people who are, to the maybe 2 or 3 people who are actually speaking on behalf of all of us, maybe fucking it up. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think that's kind of what I don't want to outright say it, is where it's like, hey, what leadership was handling? Who was actually? I don't know who the specific. I do know. I'm not gonna, because that's not what the show is about. Yeah, and I think that's a part of the issue that. I guess that brings me we can maybe spend like the last 15, 20 minutes on this, because we have new leadership. We have the U's. What has been you all's experience in dealing with the existing leadership, the old guard that was there before you all? What has been your experiences in dealing with them? And have they been supportive? Has there been, and just so people are aware, this isn't a bash or a knock on anyone. I've got Wayne and Akeo and others that we're in contact with that are going to be on further future episodes, and everyone. So, but what are some of your experiences in dealing with existing leadership, NAACPs, whatever organizations you want to?
Great.
Yeah.
Selma has built great bridges to build coalitions and strength in our community. I've been warmly welcomed and invited to tables. But I'm up front, and I just tell them that, we need your help, but you also need our help, and we need to do this together. Like, we can't be divided on this initiative.
Do you think they've done a good job of that? Yeah.
I think so.
Is that a recent thing? Is that a recent thing, or is that a since you, or is that something just since like?
I think Black leadership in general has been really good here in Des Moines. I can't speak outside of the city.
Right.
But I think we all know the importance we know that the iron is hot and we have to work with it as soon as we can. So I've seen people put egos aside. I've seen people, take a step back and let the youth lead. I've seen people come along the youth. I've seen people come along our old heads.
Yeah.
People come alongside me. So I think we need to continue to speak on the positive that we're doing. And then when we do see division, we need to call it out, reel it in. Because there's power when we're all together. And I think the state sees that. And when this next legislator comes there, we're about to give them the business. We're going to have some legislation written up. We're gonna work together, and we're going to get some change done.
Yeah, man.
We're not, as a community, we're not going to be divided, and I'll be damn sure be the one of us to be bringing us together, because we need this done today.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
Yesterday. Yesterday.
I think that, and I am the great in-between generation, so I am a zennial. So the old guard is exactly that, but the young kids, like the old people, are about 20 years older than me. Young kids about 20 years younger than me.
Right.
So I'm
You're
like
at that
right
comfortable in between spot. Yeah.
So to be very fair, I have seen a lot of support from our warriors that have been doing this for as long as some of us, or more than most of us have been alive. I think there was a little adapting phase at the beginning, because they had been fighting this fight for a long time, and the new generation fights different. So there was an adjustment. There was an adjustment period, and they had to kind of look and see, okay, we're going to do it this way. We've been doing it like this. Let's see what these kids are talking about. Let's see what's going on. And I think they did that with grace and honor, and I think they did a good job, and I think they're doing a great job of supporting them, and showing up and showing out, and whether it's monetary support, physical support, emotional support, talking to them.
Contacts, whatever it may be.
Everything.
Yeah.
I think they're doing a good job. I think the younger generation, because I'm the in-between, I'm going to speak on both, is doing a good job. Again, growing pains at the beginning, because who
wants to
follow
some old
you can't tell them nothing. You know what I'm saying? You can't. They know everything. I know I did. At 20, it's amazing to me. I don't know how I Benjamin Button this life, but at 21 years old, I knew everything. At 41 years old, I knew nothing. So I don't know how I did that, but that's just how it works. So you don't really want to. We're gonna do this our way. We know that y'all have been doing it for a while, but look where we are. So we don't feel like
I think that's maybe I want to hear what you think about this too.
I don't think there was a lot of
that was the main pushback because I'm in a similar situation to you. Like I'm like almost gonna be 30. I don't want to say it.
You are not in the same situation.
Yeah, bro. I'm almost gonna be there, bro. I'm almost. But I'm hearing it from dudes
in the same situation.
But bro, I'm hearing it from dudes who are like, who are technically the young generation that are homies, and there's like, yo, I'm not going out there, man. They didn't already mess it up. You know what I'm saying? Like, they didn't mess it up. I don't want to hear from old head. You know what I mean? And I think, well, I guess because you're out and you're doing yours frontline in Norwalk. What has been some of your, I guess, or what do you think about it?
I mean, it just even outside of Norwalk, like the generation you're speaking of, the younger generation.
Zoom. They like to be called Zoom. We're going to respect them. We do what they want.
They get dogged on because they're the newer generation. They're so into their smartphones, social media, things like that. But this generation is so powerful and so large, but they're a right now generation. They're like, okay, something's wrong. We want it changed right now. We're not trying to wait.
Which is what we need.
That's cool. That's dope.
Which is what we need.
Absolutely.
Because the patience of the old generation.
They were right now. They were showing up, marching. They were in this age group of 24 to 30.
I'm so happy you said that. That's kind of that's
the limitations were different.
Let me.
The limitations of what they could push were different.
I think you hit it right on the head, dude. Because I think that the similarities of that generation, the old guard, and this generation right now, with the instant gratification, like wanting it now, do you all think that, I guess because I think some of the things that failed that generation took on was because of that. So I see those repetitive things that are happening right now. What is that middle ground? You know what I'm saying?
I think there should be.
Yeah. Well,
okay. Because I think a part of my pushback is like looking at, How does the instant gratification fit into things like I talked about earlier with like we need to write a legislative bill and then push it slowly through
Exactly.
when you got an 18-year-old who's like, no, fuck that.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's what they're doing.
But peep this. But his thing is I'm not waiting 3 months.
Exactly.
I'm gonna burn shit down until it's done.
Exactly.
But the burning shit maybe stops
all of it.
If you
stops
do it,
all of it. So that you see what I'm saying?
No,
What is that in between?
It only stops if we have people who refuse to put together the things that are happening now and the things that happened in 1776. If you refuse to make these connections, then there's going to be an issue.
Okay.
If you can grasp that what you're living in is the middle of a revolution. That is what you're living in. What they're saying right now, what they're saying about the protesters, what they're saying about rioting, what they're saying about looting, are almost the exact same sentiment you can find in newspapers from the 1700s.
Yeah.
Almost about the revolution, about the Sons of Liberty. You know what they said about the Boston Tea Party? There was only about 30% of the country that supported the Boston Tea Party that we celebrate now, and that is why whitewashing history is dangerous. Because when you whitewash it, then people think, that's exactly what I asked somebody. I said, do you think that that the United States got their independence from Great Britain by holding hands and walking on a cobblestone path and singing Kumbaya? Right. No, they had to fight the system. And a lot of times that can come in our monetary fight. That can come in, we can see Generation Zoom is doing it. It can come digitally. It can come different ways. But sometimes, not sometimes, all the time, there's going to come a point where the system is going to give out its last because it does not want to be replaced. And if that comes, then where are you going to land? Are you going to be run over? Or are you going to do what the ancestors of old, and I'll say all of ours, because there were many a slave that fought in the Revolutionary War and free black person. The very first person to die in the Revolutionary War was Crispus Attucks, is attributed, and was a black man. So our ancestors fought for. Are you going to be the realization of those dreams? Are you going to be the rise up when you say, this is not happening? I'm not going to sit by idly and just let this happen so then I can look around and go, how did we get here?
Right. Well, see, MLK was looked at as a Negro antagonist.
Yep.
So even with him doing it right, he was still looked at as like a terrorist. So we live Zoom forward now, everyone looks at him as an idol. My tactic is do the same thing MLK did and have people eat their words when they're like, well, hold on, wait, we were protesting. No, this is what you wanted. You wanted us to be peaceful, nonviolent, MLK style. Well, I'm willing to give you that, but we're going to sit at the state capitol. We're going to sit at the police department. We're going to camp out at the capitol. We're going to put tents up, and we're going to do it. Now, are you going to be there to protect us? Because this is the same thing you wanted us to do.
But that's, I think,
we're not being protected.
But then you can flip it on their head and make them eat
what they
crow.
want. They just want you to shut up.
Shut up, yeah.
Well, what is that? I guess just to focus it, what is that middle ground then? Like, because you see what I'm saying? Like, because realistic, and we see it in an example here. Yeah. Like, we went crazy. Like, we had the biggest populist movement that Iowa's probably ever had, right? But we still can't even get an executive order. Like, I think there's that middle ground of where is that intersection?
I think it's important. I mean? So
change the book.
I always believe in the people that have gone before us. So we stand on the shoulder of giants. So the movement has to bring both sides together. It's not going to work. We need passion. We need angry, frustrated people ready to burn stuff down.
And we need the experience.
But
that's where the old guard comes into hand. And then the people in the middle of the ground who's coming up and rising, who can replace the old guard, and the new guard, the younger generation can fill in where the 30-year-olds are at, and the 30-year-olds move up to the old guard. Like it has to shift.
Let me say this really quickly, because I want to, before we run out of time too, because one of the pushbacks we have is people want to ask questions but being afraid to ask questions if say something crazy. We're gonna set it up soon, if not this episode, the next episode, where you can ask anonymous questions, send them in, we'll discuss them and dissect them live. So that way you don't have to feel like, and really just let everyone know there's no question that's dumb.
No.
You can ask anything. Being willing to ask and being willing to is the first step. There's not, am I going to sound racist?
Acknowledgement.
Trying to acknowledge what's inside of you is beautiful. And so I guess to segue, this will probably be, one of our last questions today. Where do white people, and I keep bringing this back into it because it's important. I probably ask it every question so that our viewers know what they can do to be involved. What can Joe Schmo working at Nationwide do to push this moving forward? Let's say Joe Schmo's 45. He's not gonna go out and protest. He doesn't have necessarily the 100 grand to pay for an attorney.
45.
You see what I'm saying? But all right, Pastor, you being mean. You know what I'm saying? Like, all right. Let's say the dude he's not gonna go protest. Maybe that's not his vibe.
Right.
What can the average working white adult in corporate Des Moines, corporate Iowa do to push this moving forward? To help right now.
Answers.
Call people out.
Talk.
Call people out, talk.
Yeah. And
volunteer at organizations.
Volunteer.
Questions.
And you don't have to call them
Explain
out.
that. Explain that.
Go ahead.
So like recently I had a guy ask me, a white man asked me like, well, he didn't ask me, he told me, he said, why are you doing all this? You know, like for instance, you guys are tearing down the Lincoln Memorial. Why would you do that? And I said, have you ever seen the Lincoln Memorial? You know, Lincoln is petting the head of a black man that is kneeling. So are you telling me after all of these years, we didn't fight for our own, you know, freedom? It was only dictated by the white man, and he just stopped. Okay, don't stop. Keep asking those questions. I need you to ask those questions because you stopped because you don't know, and you said, "Oh, she got me." No, I didn't get you. I'm trying to educate you. I'm trying to get you to understand.
Yeah.
Keep asking those questions, and it will make you feel uncomfortable, like what we talked about earlier.
Right.
But that's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah, I think that, and when I say call people out, I don't mean call them out like you know, just. But what I mean is the little things like, you know what? Oh God, I love Generation Zoom. I have to tell you how much I thought I loved millennials, which is y'all guys, by the way.
You love us.
I do. But Generation Zoom took you guys' stuff and they ate Tide Pods, and now they're like, boom, like so they are, and so TikTok has become my friend, and somebody on there was talking about it, and they were like, look, no, Aunt Carol, we're not gonna just brush off your racist remarks anymore. We're gonna say, hey, what you said was racist. We're not even gonna not mention it. We're gonna say what you said was racist. Right. If you don't understand why, we're gonna tell you why. And we're gonna just stop it at the tracks. Yep. Because it's not that everybody is uneducated, some are just racist. But if you start calling them out and they can't just keep getting away with it, and just people just letting them let it go.
Almost uncomfort as a tool. Yeah. You know, and I think, and dope. I think to add on to that, I want to add, let's like our friends, like the people that sponsored their first couple episodes with Blue Ox Vodka. They made it I thought this was super dope. And on top of sponsoring, they made it an effort every lunch to hire from black-owned restaurants.
That's awesome.
Doing things like that. Like if you work on a boardroom, or let's say you're a banker or something like that, and you don't see any people of color in your branch, like there's things that you could maybe say, hey, let's find a black person and hire. Find ways to add diversity to your board. I say that specifically in leadership positions within your corporation.
And be intentional.
Like be intentional about hiring a black vice president.
Absolutely.
Be intentional about putting someone on a black person as the president of your finance.
For your corporation.
Create a. I've seen, for instance, shouts to Hemi. I saw recently Simpson, or was it? I want to say it was Simpson. Created a new board specifically for addressing like how do us at an Ivy League school address this to rampant racism and put a black man on top of it. You know, I think those are the type of things that we need to start doing.
That's awesome.
I guess the last question, because
not just any black man, put a diversity of thought, like put multiple
diversity of thought, because that's we don't want tokenism or model minorityism, because I feel like that's let me speak on that while I've had just enough of my Burn the Boats to drink. Model minority behavior that we see take place here, that help yourself. I think I personally want to call out companies that do that specifically. Let's not pick a black person, and it's different than tokenism. Let's not pick a black person and then try to force them to play a role to represent your company, just play the Roger Rabbit of your company.
Right.
Like if you act like this, then you could be in this position too. Right. And I feel like that's something that is too often used as a tool.
All of those tools you just named are used.
I think specifically in Des Moines with the corporate atmosphere that exists here. Like I've had personally, man, in meetings, people say, "Yo, if you just looked or acted a little bit more like that that $100,000 would be yours. Like I've had that, you know, and that's a weird thing where all your numbers outlay something different, but
I'm not willing to compromise
at all.
Same.
So I want you to know, I told you before, I work in politics in the area, and I have for a while, even before I moved here. And first of all, the first thing I do is if it's a face-to-face, which it very rarely is, most of the time Zoom, but I don't wear long sleeves. I most of the time start growing my hair out so I can put it in twists or something else right before a campaign. Because here's the thing: if I come to you and I don't want if you don't want to hire me because I look, that's fine. I don't want to work for you. Right. Trust and believe. If you don't like the art that's on me, if you don't like the blackness in me, if my outward appearance changes how you think my mind works, then I don't want to work for you.
Right. You know, that's such a because it was exactly what I'm about to say. You know exactly what I'm about to go into. Yeah.
And
I
that
wish I
messed
would.
with my identity from the age of 18 to all the way up to 22 when I cut them to find a job. And then I'm actually in a job, and I'm like sitting here not being myself, and I had an identity crisis. Like, who am I?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? No, I'm not doing this no more. I'm going to grow my hair the way it naturally grows, and I'm going to be who I am.
Yep.
Because first of all, I do my people a disservice when I'm not me.
When you try to assimilate in order to advance.
Y'all know what's sad? When I first moved here, I had dreads like, it was like them tons of my back.
That's a shame.
But I cut them because
lost all your strength, too.
I felt like
Look at you, Sam.
I felt like Samson.
Lost all your strength.
But y'all know what's crazy? I was afraid because everyone was, here's the double layer to this, right? When I first moved here, everyone thought I was a Katrina refugee. And I was fucked because it's like, I can't be a refugee if I'm from America, even if I was.
Thank you. What the hell is a refugee from America?
Second is like,
that's another shit.
I found I couldn't get a job. Like I couldn't get a job. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't even, bruh, like trying to like sell mixtapes and all that. I couldn't even get in recording studios. People like uncomfortable, like it's nuts.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not me.
Yeah.
But that's something I grew into. Yeah. That's something I grew into, but it's look, you have to live with you. Right. Like I don't care what happens. The only person who's with you from the moment you're born to the moment you die is you.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's it. So you have to be you. And if you walk around here trying to act like a chameleon to fit into this person's idea or that person, then you're going to find yourself mentally unstable because you're going to keep trying to change and morph and change to benefit instead of you being, and the people who want to be around you will be attracted to you, who you are in all of your authenticity. They will be attracted to you, and then you won't have to work to be anybody else.
That's the most beautiful. That's the most beautiful way to put it.
But sometimes it takes time to get.
It does. It does, and it's not something that just happens.
Right,
it's something
you have to work
towards.
And there has to be. I feel like that's kind of what I hint at is sometimes I think in Iowa, with the lack of support, lack of infrastructure, it's hard for probably young black people to even get to that point where because we're talking about like even having to like feeling comfortable in corporate, but then there's only 3 big corporations in town. So the moment you piss off of the big 3, I'm not gonna keep naming them, but like then you're just out here. You know what I mean? I think that's we're running out of time. This is something we should definitely, as y'all can see, this is 2 episodes.
Are we about to go right now?
Go ahead, my bad. Pastor do this every
I gotta talk about Briasia.
I
have to talk about
yes. Talk about
Briasia.
this.
Okay, so if you don't know already, Briasia Terrell is a little girl who is missing from Davenport. Now, here's the thing about that. Number one, she's 10 years old. She's a little black girl. She was missing for 5 days already before they ever even put out an Amber Alert. So
but her family and
her family. Oh yes. Her family and friends have been working this since the minute that she disappeared. Yes. She was going to spend the night over someplace, and then they didn't hear from her after her last phone call, and they've been working on this, of course, since day one. However, they did not put out an Amber Alert until 6 days afterwards, after her disappearance, and then even then, by some mistake, the Amber Alert has been canceled and reset and canceled and reset almost every day since they actually put it out.
You know, I remember that.
And they have been actively searching for her. Now, at this point, you'll look in the news. If you look this up and you look up Briasia Terrell, you will see there's all these people looking for her. The Iowa State Police are looking for her. Local authorities, state authorities, they absolutely are, and they have been for 72 hours. She has been missing for 13 days, and they have been looking for 72 hours. She is a 10-year-old little girl.
And this is out of Davenport, Iowa.
This is out of Davenport. Right now, the search is concentrated in the Clinton County area, and that is they're not really giving any information, but you can only assume that there is some kind of information that led them from Davenport into Clinton, Iowa, and that is where they actually met today. The Iowa Black Caucus met today there to search for her, and yesterday the local authorities and state authorities were there searching for her. But it's important to not only note that look her up so you can see what she looks like. I have posted the Amber Alert on my page. It's Passion Morgan on Facebook, so you can find it there. But it's important to know that this systemic racism that we're fighting, all of these are examples of why it's important, because there is no way in hell that there would have been a little white girl missing for 5 days before they put out an Amber Alert and missing for 10 days before they actually started searching.
Wow. Yo, so anyone with information, tips,
absolutely,
anything like that for this, please, you know what I'm saying, help out. We're gonna keep covering this until she's found as well. I mean, obviously, y'all, people that are watching, you've seen how this show has kind of grown into. We want this show to grow into whatever it is that the people need. Like, this isn't gonna be something where it's like, yo, we're gonna be focused on one thing. So.
I'm sorry. My wife friended her father on Facebook, and there was something else I was supposed to say, and I forgot. They're having a hard time even printing flyers for her. They went to Staples in the local area, and they charged them an arm and a leg to actually print out missing person flyers. And they went to several other businesses that would not print out the
I got some off here. I got a print shop that I know for sure. Okay. So that's our time, y'all. I do want to thank everybody that tuned in today. I want to thank our guests, our panelists. You'll definitely probably see them again. Make sure next week you turn in. We're going to have a special episode dedicated to John Lewis and those that we've lost that have been on the front lines of this movement before I was born, before I even cared about anything. You know what I mean? So we're gonna also include a lot of our old guard city leaders that we were talking about on that episode, so y'all know I wasn't just being catty. I just want to thank y'all, man. This is episode 6 of Sunday Supper. My name is MarKaus. Thank y'all so much for continuing this journey with us. Y'all have a great evening.
Obviously, the anger, the hostility, the bitterness,
Into the darkness, it looks back. Best high in the hood since cook cracks, and that's what I'm good at.